other ways, and that's fine. Just see if your answers come out the same. What goes on top? Remember back to factoring, what goes on top? The first and the last, 2 times negative 15, so it's negative 30. You can just watch. You can be open to 6-2, but this isn't written for you anywhere. This is just for review. What goes on the bottom? Good, negative 1, the number in the middle. Then we have to think of 2 numbers. Good, 2 numbers that multiply at the top and add at the bottom. 6 and 5, and she put the negative on the 6 because you keep the sign of the bigger number to get your negative 1. So what we need is these 2 numbers. We need a negative 6 and we need a positive 5. Second? Because, yeah, right there. You don't need to write this down, just watch. Alright, so what we're looking at is we want to get a negative 6 here, and our choices here are 1 and 2. This could be 1 and 15, or this could be 3 and 5. So of those 2 numbers, where do you get a 6 out of? Which 2 numbers?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. So I'm going to make it 2x, and then I'm going to make it negative 3 because I really wanted negative 6. 2x times negative 3. And then my other choice is 1x right here. And to make it 5, I just put a positive 5. Now here's the thing. For the section, if you look down at your notes, they actually do it a much easier factoring because they give you problems where there's no number in front. I want you to understand that the easier thing we're going to do today only works in special cases when there's no number in front. If there's a number in front, you have to do it a different way. Alright, so look at these first couple with me. Right in the section title, Solving Quadratic Equations by Factoring. Notice, letter A has nothing in front of x squared. Letter B has nothing in front of m squared. These are the most simple kinds of factoring, but it doesn't work every time. It only works in these special cases. If A times B was equal to 0, the only way you can make that happen is if one of them was 0. Any number times 0 has to be 0. So which number is 0 here? Good. Either. Okay, so either A has to be 0 or B has to be 0. Whenever you have 2 numbers that multiply together and make 0, one of them has to be 0. It doesn't matter which one. So you'll probably recognize that from algebra. Okay, solve by factoring. I really hesitate to give you the simple route here, but because I want you to realize it doesn't work every time. Someone tell me right now to make me feel better, when is the only time that you can use the shortcut I'm about to show you?
What shortcut are you going to show us?
Good, when there's nothing in front of x squared. Okay, that's the only time this works. So if you go like this, and you say the first and last is negative 16, and the middle number is 6, what are those 2 numbers that can make negative 16 and 6? Positive 8 and negative 2, very good. When there's no number in front, then your work is done. All you have is x plus 8 and x minus 2 equals 0. And I'm just going to erase that so that I can write it down further. You don't have to change anything. It just feels squished. X plus 8 and x minus 2 equals 0. Okay? That only happens when there's no coefficient, when there's no number in front of x squared. Yes?
I thought it'd be equal to 0, you have to switch this.
That's going to be the next step, that's right.
Oh, okay.
When it's inside parentheses, it's the regular factor. When you go out and say what x is, that's when you switch it. And if there happens to be a number in front, you divide by the number in front. Alright, good. And what he just said is what we're going to be doing, but I want to make sure you guys understand why. This one could equal 0, or this one could equal 0. Watch this. You could either say x plus 8 equals 0. If x plus 8 equals 0, what would x be? Negative 8. Good. Okay? What if we went the other way? What if x minus 2 is equal to 0? What would x have to be? You would add 2 to both sides and you would get positive 2. Okay? You can write that out if you want. I usually do for the first time. I say x plus 8 has to be 0. And I know that's hard to read. X plus 8 is going to be equal to 0, which makes negative 8, or x minus 2 is going to be equal to 0, which makes positive 2. But the shortcut is you just switch the signs. Alright, so for letter B, we need two numbers to multiply. What number is going to go on top?
Answer. X equals.
Negative 28. And what number goes on bottom? Negative 3. Who knows those two numbers?
X.
Negative 7 and 4. Good. Now, because there's no number in front right here, I don't have to do any additional work. I say m minus 7 and m plus 4 equals 0. But that doesn't work every single time. Only when there's not a number in front. So looking at that, we take both signs and we switch it. M would be positive 7 or okay, questions on that? Let me just go through these quickly. I want you to have the most of the time to try to practice problems on the back. Alright, for letter C, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to equal what? 27, and when you add them, you get negative 12.
9 and 3.
Positive, negative 9 and negative 3. That's right.
You're wrong.
Good. Nope, she's right. Negative 9 and negative 3 makes a positive when you multiply, makes a negative when you add them. So my factors are x minus 9 and x minus 3 equals 0, because we have that equals 0 there. And our two answers are positive 9 and positive 3. From what I've seen, they haven't given you many problems where there's a coefficient in front. If we come across that, I'll show you and remind you how to do that. All right, the next one's changed a little bit. Anyone still writing?
Yes.
You can copy from someone.
Wait,
Okay?
I'm just gonna take pictures.
Got it? Okay. All right, this is slightly different, but don't forget, one of the first things we did when we were factoring was we looked for a greatest common factor. There's a 4 that goes into all three of these numbers. So if you divide out a 4 first, then it will be easier to factor. 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared. Negative 48x divided by 4. Am I going too fast with that?
Yes.
Just dividing everything by 4.
Divided by 4.
So what would this one be?
So the x.
11. Good. And then equals 0. Alright, the 4 out in front is part of your factor. So I'm going to keep it out in front, but now I'm going to break it into these two factors like this. Some of you can automatically see it in your head. Some of you would still think of it better by doing the x. What are the two numbers they have to multiply to?
No, negative.
They multiply for 11, right? What do they add up to?
0.
Negative 12.
Negative 12, the middle number. They always add to this one.
So it's negative 1.
Good. Two negatives, negative 1 and negative 11. They multiply to be 11, but when you add them, you get negative 12. Questions on that one? And we're only allowed to do the easy kind because there's no number in front of x squared. So that makes it x minus 1 and x minus 11 equals 0.
So x equals 1 and 11.
That's right, x equals 1 and 11. The 4 is part of your factor, but it's not a solution for x. One or 11. One of those would work. Letter B looks complicated, but I see that there's a 3 there. And there's a trick to see if the number can divide by 3. You add up the digits. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 can be divided by 3. So I know this number can be divided by 3. So help me out with your calculators. I can do the first one. 3x squared divided by 3 is going to be x squared. I can do the middle one. Negative 21x divided by 3 is what? Negative 7x. But I'm going to need your help with negative 132 divided by 3. 44? Negative 44? Okay. So we're going to break this one down. I know it's going to be x and x. And then I'm going to need to figure out what two numbers could make negative 44 when I multiply them, but negative 7 when I add them. Good. Negative 11 and positive 4. Negative 11 times 4 is negative 44. If you add it, you get negative 7. Keep the sign of the bigger number. So the negative 11 and the positive 4 goes here. 3 is part of your factors, but for x, there's only going to be 2 answers. Look, whenever it's x squared, you need 2 answers. If there was ever x to the third, you would need 3 answers. So what are my 2 answers?
11 and negative 4.
Okay.
So if the number has all 5 of both columns,
No, it's part of the equation, part of the factors. It's important, but it's not part of the solution. The solution is only in finding x. So basically, it's like dividing both sides by 3. I'm going to try to solve for x. All right, and the last one. It's divisible by 2. So 2, tell me what's inside.
It's
Uh-huh.
minus 130.
Minus 130, good. Took me a minute to think of those 2 numbers, but they're kind of easy. I was mad at myself when I didn't think of them. 2 numbers that can multiply to be negative 130, but when you add it, you get 3.
What? It's like
Good, 13 and 10. Which one's the negative one?
13.
Good, 13 minus 10. 13 times negative 10 makes that negative 130. So the 2 is part of our equation, but our solution is only going to come from where the x is, right here and right here. Sometimes if there's an x on the outside of the parentheses, that's when you have to have a third answer. So it's going to be plus 13 and minus 10. So 2 answers are now good. You will only use this method when they can be factored.